Greetings and welcome to Conversations with Carp. I'm Steve Carpenter, Sports Information Director at Hutchinson Community College and your host for this podcast. Normally at this time of year, I would be calling a baseball or a softball game on the Blue Dragon Sports Network, or scoring a golf tournament or working a track meet, and then reporting on those events for BlueDragonSports.com. But normal, as we know it, is on indefinite hold. The coronavirus pandemic is holding our world hostage right now, and whether we like it or not, we are living in a new reality. A reality filled with stay-at-home orders and restrictions that are on a scale we never thought as a society we would ever have to endure. Our new normal includes lexicon like social distancing and self-quarantine. We use these words as easily now as we used to use three-pointer or home run. Someday soon, our society will return to normal, but in the meantime, this is why Conversations with Carp was created. While we can't play the games right now, we can still give our fans and student athletes a little normalcy talking about Blue Dragon athletics while we ride the storm out. My inaugural guest for Conversations with Carp is Hutchinson Community College Director of Athletics, Josh Gooch. I told Josh 5 years ago when he took this job that he probably wouldn't have a normal day as athletic director until after we were a year back into the sports arena after the completion of the renovation. That should have been 2018, Josh. I think I may have miscalculated a little bit.
Carp, liar, pants on fire. I haven't had a normal day, but in all actuality, Carp, I knew what I was getting into, and to be able to do it with you is what makes it all worthwhile.
On the surface, it's pretty obvious what this pandemic is, how it's affected Blue Dragon athletics, but it goes a lot deeper than just not playing games. Take us through the little deeper look into Blue Dragon athletics as it is right now.
Well, Steve, you're right. It is deeper than not playing games, and athletics and being able to do those is kind of like the frosting on the proverbial cake. But I think right now, things change day to day and sometimes hour by hour. I think it's important that our staff, they continue to progress daily with these changes. Number one, our student athletes and coaches, they're now learning, in a different format, online for our student athletes, and our coaches are having more Zoom type meetings. Everyone has to work and figure out the new role that they play. I think I've shared with you that our coaches are now tutors, and one thing we must do is over-communicate. I'm positive that we'll get better, through this. We have to continue to, do all the great work now. All the things we're doing now is so we can reap a good harvest when the timing's right, whenever we get through this. So, those things, I think from a recruiting standpoint and retention standpoint, we have to use every resource at our disposal. Think about, Zoom calls and FaceTime and Skype to do recruiting and making sure that our student athletes, current ones, are being communicated with, and then, of course, recruiting. Our office staff, you, me, Steve, Kappeman, Scott Brooks, Julie, we continue to work, on the things like budgeting and planning, and, we got to continue to pay our bills that are coming in, finalizing the scholarships. We have coaches that need letters of intent created for their recruits and then sent to those recruits. So at the end of the day, we're trying to keep as much of this bus moving in the right direction and doing it in a kind of a different format. So that's really what we're doing now. And of course, everybody knows about the games being canceled, but I think that's for the most part what we're doing.
When this all started to fly, it would have been the week of the state tournament, 3A here at Hutchinson and elsewhere around the state. I could just tell things were starting to hop pretty quickly. Just how fast, especially after the tournament started, we go from thinking that state tournaments are on course that Wednesday, which had been March 11th. We're still thinking we're on course to finish the state tournament. You and I would have been jumping in a vehicle driving to Lubbock. Just on that first day of the state tournament, I could remember you looking at you over in the corner of the arena. I mean, you were constantly on the phone or texting, Just as fast as things changed, how tough and how crazy was that for you?
Well, as you know, we have a great relationship with Keisha, and they did everything in their power to get the tournament in. It was the beginning of that COVID-19 ordeal, and they were in constant contact with our staff as decisions were being made, so I appreciate that. Our staff was prepared. We're going to do everything in our power to run the tournament, and we're going to do that until they told us differently, as you know, which they ultimately did. It was the right call. I know there are a lot of opinions about that, but I certainly respect the people of Keisha, and I look forward to hosting, many events here at Hutch in the future. I think like anything else, it was moment to moment and minute by minute. So, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for our relationship with them and for everybody that put effort into to pull that event off as long as we could have it.
Yeah, and that goes, and I think we were prepared. I could tell a couple of weeks before, as we were getting our staff meetings together in prep for the state tournament and what we thought would be the JUCO tournament, that you had a pretty good idea that something big was coming down the pike. But we were prepared. You were very proactive. Not only our staff prepared our staff, but also prepared the sports arena staff in prep for those tournaments. But you had a pretty good feeling that something, I'm not sure this big was coming down the road, but you knew something was coming down the road just by the way you were proactive and how we prepared.
As you know, Carp, we cover these events well in advance of the championship being held. And this one, Steve Carpenter had all the details laid out for us. The entire staff was prepared. We've done this before. It was the constant change that had me concerned. I didn't want to be complacent. So, I always want to showcase how awesome a place the city of Hutchinson is, how great Hutchinson Community College is, and we need to be prepared for the unknown. So all who came, including the news stations from over in Wichita, I can remember you calling me about them. They were impressed by the prep and attention we paid, before and during the event. I think that says a lot about our team. Don Rose, Vic Bocus, the entire facilities team, they were really on top of it. The arena staff, Carp, worked tirelessly to have this place spotless, and, Don had plenty of disinfectant, hand sanitizer. Don was super prepared for that. I leaned heavily on Ryan Hilty, our coordinator of sports medicine, for his thoughts on how things were progressing and things we needed to have in place. I think because we were prepared and talked a lot ahead of time about it, it allowed us to have some peace as the news kept coming, at us about the closings. I can remember every 10 minutes something was popping up on Twitter about something else closing. So I think it gave us some peace there.
State of Kansas, as we all know, is under a stay-at-home order through April 19th. The president has extended social distancing guidelines. In the short term, you talked about it a little bit in the opening, but in the short term, what are you telling the coaching staff and our student unions through these uncertain times at this point in time?
Carp, I'm telling them, and you've been in some of those meetings, I'm telling the coaches to communicate daily, over-communicate if that can be done. Be proactive, make sure our student athletes are getting their assignments done. They're online students right now. But also, just in general, reach out to see how they're doing. I personally am reaching out to the coaches, a few each day to see how they are. As you know, Sunday night we had a Zoom call. That was pretty neat, to have everybody, together on that one page and see some of the faces that we hadn't been face-to-face in a while. I think my biggest message is we will get through this, but we will get through this together. I've been using that mantra a lot, and I hope that sticks. We're going to get through this together, not just Hutch Community College athletics, but everybody.
Is really the toughest part right now for you, being the leader of such a large group, just the not knowing right now because things are literally changing by the hour?
I think so. Not knowing, but also not having, solid answers to the people that have questions. That's tough. I've told you and, of course, the entire staff, as soon as I have new information, I'll pass it along. So I think just not knowing, but not having answers to questions that they have. Some people don't have answers to my questions, but I think just not having, specific answers to specific questions.
Yeah, we could probably talk about coronavirus and how it's affected everything for the next hour. But there is some positive Blue Dragon stuff to talk about, even though we're not on the field. One of the things going on right now is the football office renovation. Kind of take us through that right now.
Construction is still ongoing. That was one of my questions I had. Will they still be able to do renovation? Of course, the cafeteria is still being worked on. The football offices and coach's office and locker room will be a great new addition there at Gowans. It was much needed, and I look forward to Coach Dallas and his staff being able to welcome back our players to a nice home when the timing's right.
Then obviously we have a bunch of fundraisers we do yearly. Right now those are kind of in a state of flux. Probably right now we don't have any firm dates, but for those who are kind of looking for that kind of information, what kind of information do you have on like our golf tournament and the football auction?
We'll have our annual golf tournament, that we usually have. We'll find a late summer date, early fall to put that on. It's always been kind of a fun day. I know I certainly enjoy it as much as I love golf, but I know our staff kind of has a nice day with it. As we move on and get more clarity, we'll put a date out for people to save the date. The Gridiron Club auction, I know that they've postponed it, trying to find a date for that also, and those will be announced. Our annual game sponsorships and stuff like that, corporate sponsor stuff, will be something we'll have to work on as the time is right, as we feel like it's a good opportunity to kind of see where that, falls into the scope of everything of importance.
And in closing, this is the inaugural Conversations with Carp, and this really has been kind of derived from the COVID-19 outbreak and everything. A way to give a little bit of normalcy to not only our athletes, our coaches, but our fans. Talk a little bit about Blue Dragon Athletics.
I think that the reason why I suggested that we maybe put on a platform like this, it's going to allow the people to still continue to see our coaches, our coaches to talk about their programs, to get it out on the social media platforms. I see a lot of people doing different things around the country, and I think it was something that's much needed. We have a natural with you being a unbelievable sports information director and being able to pull things like this off. I think at the end of the day, Carp, we're going to come out of this thing stronger. Number one, we're going to have more classes that are ready to be distributed online, so that's a huge positive. But what this really does, Steve, it makes me realize how proud I am to be the athletic director at Hutch CC. We have great leadership at the college, starting with Dr. File. We both rave about his leadership, and the President's Council, who've had to kind of take the lead on putting us through this COVID-19, and they've been awesome. Our staff, they've been flexible and adapted to this ever-changing time. I appreciate you being willing to do these podcasts. I look forward to hearing from all the coaches. I hope that you're excited about doing those, and I know it's more time, but that we're able to do these, not face-to-face, I think helps us, and we have a lot to be proud of and show off here in Blue Dragon Nation, and we're just doing it from a different platform now. So what I'd like to finish up with is just saying to all our current student athletes, we have your back in these tough times. Please let us know if we can do anything to help. And to our community who supported us so strongly and continue to do so, we're here for you, and I know we'll come out of this better together. So I appreciate, Carp, you putting some of these questions together and letting me be the inaugural.
You bet. Glad to have you. And any big announcements down the road, we will definitely get you back on and make sure we can get that out to not only our college family, but our Blue Dragon family, all of our fans, students, and we'll have that information for you. When you have it, we will have Josh Gooch back on. My thanks to you, Josh.
Thanks so much, Steve, and look forward to seeing you soon.
That's our first Conversation with Carp for 2020. We'll be back with another one tomorrow. Until then, so long, everybody.